Admiral Zixthar of the Hegemony Defense Fleet studied the tactical display with growing unease. The crimson dots representing human vessels had begun moving again, but not in any pattern the galactic military database could recognize. For 3 solar cycles, the combined might of 7-star nations had laid siege to the Sol system. Yet somehow the humans continued to fight. "Report," he commanded, his 4 eyes focusing on different sectors of the holographic battlefield. "Sir, the human formations are dispersing," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Velmar. The young Zephyrian's antennae twitched with confusion. "They're abandoning their defensive positions around their colonies." Zixthar's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Every species in the galaxy fought the same way. Establish defensive perimeters, protect supply lines, maintain formations. It was the natural order of warfare, proven across millennia of conflict. The humans had initially followed these patterns, making them predictable opponents despite their primitive technology. But something had changed. "Admiral," came another voice from the communication station. "We're receiving scattered transmissions from human vessels. They're not retreating, sir. They're spreading out across the entire system." On the main display, the human fleet dissolved like smoke. Individual ships, small squadrons, and improvised battle groups scattered in seemingly random directions. Some headed for the asteroid belt. Others dove toward the inner planets, and a few even launched themselves on intercept courses with the Hegemony's own supply convoys. "Fools," muttered General Korthak from the Dominion Third Fleet. "They're abandoning all tactical coherence. We'll pick them off one by one." But as the standard battle cycles passed, something unprecedented began to unfold. The scattered human vessels didn't engage in traditional fleet actions. Instead, they struck like predators, hitting supply lines, ambushing isolated squadrons, and disappearing into the cosmic debris field that littered Sol's outer reaches. Commander Sarah Chen of the UES Defiance watched the Hegemony cruiser pass beneath her ship's position, hidden in the shadow of a shattered asteroid. Her crew had been living in the belt for weeks now, using the debris as both cover and weapon. They'd learned to think like miners, pirates, and guerrillas all at once. "Target their engine assembly," she whispered to her weapons officer. "One shot, then we move." The torpedo struck with surgical precision. The alien cruiser's drives died, leaving it drifting helplessly. Before the enemy could signal for help, the Defiance had already vanished deeper into the asteroid maze, where no pursuing vessel could follow without risking collision. This scene played out across the Sol system dozens of times each day. Human ships had transformed the entire stellar region into their weapon. They used gravity wells to slingshot past enemy formations, turned space stations into missile platforms, and converted civilian mining equipment into improvised weapons of war. Captain Torres of the Iron Will had taken his ship inside the corona of Sol itself, using the star's magnetic field to mask his approach before striking at a Dominion supply depot on Mercury. The aliens' sensors couldn't track him through the stellar interference, and their ships couldn't follow him into the punishing radiation. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Okafor had established a base inside Europa's ice caves, launching hit-and-run attacks with small craft that could hide beneath the moon's frozen surface. Her pilots had learned to navigate by landmarks invisible to alien sensors, variations in ice density, mineral deposits, and thermal vents that only humans seemed capable of reading. The galaxy's military mind struggled to adapt. Admiral Zixthar convened emergency strategy sessions with his allied commanders, but their tactical computers offered no solutions. Every algorithm assumed an enemy that would eventually consolidate, that would protect something valuable enough to defend. "They're not fighting like a civilization," observed General Korthak during one heated conference. "They're fighting like animals." It was Commander Velmar who finally understood. "Sir," he said quietly, "I don't think they see this as their battlefield. I think they see it as their home." The revelation struck the alien commanders like a physical blow. Every other species fought to preserve their worlds, their cities, their way of life. They created barriers between the battlefield and everything they held dear. But humanity had done the opposite. They had made the battlefield itself their home. They slept in asteroid caves and ate rations recycled from cosmic dust. They raised their children in the hulls of warships and taught them navigation by reading the dance of planetary orbits. They had turned the cold vacuum of space into a neighborhood where they could disappear and reappear at will. The siege of Sol continued for another full cycle, but the initiative had completely shifted. Where the aliens saw empty space to be crossed and obstacles to be avoided, humans saw hiding places, weapons, and opportunities. They had adapted to an environment that their enemies could only visit. When Admiral Zixthar finally received the recall order from the Hegemony High Command, he wasn't surprised. The combined fleets had lost more ships to human raiders than they had destroyed in return. Entire supply convoys had vanished without trace, and reports spoke of human fighters emerging from impossible locations: the rings of Saturn, the solar wind itself, the quantum foam between dimensions. As the alien fleets withdrew, Commander Chen watched from her new home deep in the Kuiper Belt. Around her, human families had built communities inside hollowed-out comets and forgotten space habitats. Children born during the siege played in zero-gravity chambers, while their parents planned the next phase of humanity's expansion. The galaxy thought it had come to conquer a world. Instead, it had taught humanity that the entire universe could be their home. The siege of Sol was over, but something far more dangerous had begun. Humanity had learned to live anywhere, fight from everywhere, and call the infinite cosmos their own backyard. The stars themselves had become humanity's fortress, and no force in the galaxy knew how to assault that.